Daniel Brooks stood in front of the massive window of the Galactic Council station and stared at the stars. Beyond, he had never imagined he would be here, representing all of humanity at the most important ceremony in galactic history. His heart pounded in his chest as he adjusted his formal suit for the 10th time that morning. Behind him, his wife Lisa was checking the final details of the treaty documents. She moved with practiced grace through the preparations, her diplomatic training evident in every careful gesture. They had worked toward this moment for 5 years, ever since humanity had first made contact with the greater galactic community. "Daddy, look at the purple one." A small voice called out. Daniel turned to see his 3-year-old son, Kevin, pressing his face against the transparent wall, pointing at a passing alien ship. The boy's eyes were wide with wonder as he watched the vessel drift by with its glowing purple engines. Lisa looked up from her work and smiled. "Kevin, please stay close to us," she said gently. The situation was far from ideal. Their regular childcare provider had fallen ill that morning, and the backup had canceled at the last minute. They had no choice but to bring Kevin to the ceremony. Both parents had agreed to keep a close watch on their son during the event. "Is he going to be okay?" Daniel asked quietly. Moving closer to his wife, Lisa nodded. "He's been very good all morning. We just need to keep him entertained and close." The ceremony is only 2 hours long. The door to the preparation chamber slid open with a soft hiss. A tall insectoid alien entered, its compound eyes glittering with multiple colors. Ambassador Zixter, the head of the Galactic Council, stood nearly 7 feet tall with a smooth exoskeleton that reflected the station's lights. "Greetings, humans Daniel and Lisa Brooks," Zixter said through the translation device attached to its thorax. "The council chamber is ready for the historic signing." Daniel bowed respectfully. "We are honored to be here." Ambassador Zixter. The ambassador's antennae twitched in what might have been approval. "Your species has proven itself worthy of joining our community. The treaty you will sign today represents centuries of tradition and peace among 47 different civilizations." Kevin peeked out from behind his mother's legs, staring up at the towering insectoid with fascination rather than fear. Zixter's compound eyes shifted downward to observe the small human. "This is your offspring?" the ambassador asked. "Yes," Lisa replied. "I apologize for bringing him, but we had an emergency with our childcare arrangements." Zixter's antennae moved in a pattern the humans didn't recognize. "Your young are permitted to observe. It is good for new generations to witness history." A crystalline being entered next, its body made of what looked like living glass that shifted through various colors. Commander Veltara, the military representative of the council, stood almost as tall as Zixter. Light refracted through its body, casting rainbow patterns across the walls. "The ceremony will begin in 20 minutes, Veltara announced, its voice like wind chimes. "All delegates are assembling in the main chamber." Daniel took Kevin's hand. "Stay with Mommy and me, okay, buddy?" "Okay, Daddy," Kevin said, still staring at the crystalline commander with amazement. The group made their way through the gleaming corridors of the station. Dozens of different alien species passed them, each more incredible than the last. There were beings of pure energy contained in specialized suits, creatures that floated on anti-gravity platforms, and some that defied easy description. Kevin whispered questions constantly. "What's that one? Why is it floating? Does that one have eyes?" Lisa answered as many as she could, while Daniel focused on mentally preparing for the ceremony. The weight of representing Earth pressed down on his shoulders. One mistake could damage humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations. They entered the council chamber, and Daniel's breath caught in his throat. The circular room was enormous, with seating areas rising in tiers around a central platform. Representatives from 47 different species were already seated, creating a visual spectacle unlike anything Earth had ever seen. At the center of the platform stood a podium made of some kind of luminous stone. Resting on top of it were the treaty sheets, stacked neatly and gleaming under specialized lighting. The sheets had an unusual brown tint that seemed to shimmer when viewed from different angles. The Treaty of Galactic Unity, Zixter announced proudly, gesturing toward the podium. Created using traditional methods passed down through millennia. The sheets are made from processed seeds of the sacred tavern plant from my homeworld. Daniel and Lisa moved to their designated seats near the front of the chamber. Kevin sat between them, his little legs swinging as he looked around at all the strange beings. Lisa pulled out a small toy to keep him occupied. The ceremony began with formal speeches from various council members. Each delegate spoke about the importance of unity, peace, and cooperation among the stars. Translation devices worked overtime to convert the speeches into thousands of different languages simultaneously. Daniel listened intently while keeping one eye on Kevin. The boy was being remarkably well-behaved, playing quietly with his toy starship. After 40 minutes of speeches, Zixter called for the signing to begin. "We will proceed in order of planetary designation," the ambassador announced. "Earth, as our newest member, will sign last, one by one." Representatives from different species approached the podium. Each made a mark on the treaty sheets, using their species' traditional method. Some used appendages, others used tools, and a few seemed to mark the sheets through thought alone. The process was slow and methodical, steeped in centuries of protocol. Daniel felt his nervousness growing as Earth's turn approached. He glanced at Kevin and saw that his son had grown bored with the toy. "Lisa," he whispered. "Kevin is getting restless." She reached into her bag for another distraction, but Kevin had already slipped away from his seat. The boy moved with the silent stealth that only small children possess. Daniel's attention was pulled back to the ceremony as the delegate before him finished the signing. His heart raced as he realized it was humanity's turn. "Daniel Brooks of Earth." Zixter called out formally. Daniel stood and began walking toward the podium, his mind focused entirely on the historic moment. He didn't notice the small figure that had reached the platform before him. Kevin stood on his tiptoes, reaching up toward the shimmering brown sheets. The treaty material looked interesting to his young eyes, almost like the chocolate bars his mommy sometimes gave him as treats. The entire chamber fell silent as Bios. Kevin grabbed the corner of the top sheet and lifted it to his mouth, before a single being could react. The 3-year-old took a large bite. The taste was sweet and familiar. Kevin smiled and chewed happily, taking another bite. Then the screaming started. Alarms blared through the council chamber with deafening intensity. Red lights flashed from every surface as security protocols engaged automatically. The massive doors sealed shut with a thunderous boom that shook the entire platform. Daniel froze in horror as he saw his son standing at the podium, still chewing on a piece of the treaty. Kevin looked confused by all the noise and lights, his small hand still holding another piece of the brown sheet. "Kevin!" Lisa screamed, running toward her son. Commander Voltara's crystalline body turned bright red, a color that radiated danger. The commander's voice rang out like shattering glass. "Security breach. Secure the sacred documents immediately." Dozens of alien voices erupted at once, creating a cacophony that overwhelmed the translation systems. Some species were shouting. Others were making sounds that had no human equivalent. The peaceful ceremony had transformed into absolute chaos in seconds. Ambassador Zixter's compound eyes turned completely black, a sign of extreme distress among his species. His antennae stood straight up as he rushed toward the podium. "This is an outrage, an unforgivable desecration of our most sacred traditions." Daniel reached Kevin at the same time as Lisa. She scooped their son into her arms while Daniel stood between them and the advancing aliens. His diplomatic training warred with his parental instincts as he tried to find words that could fix this disaster. "I am so deeply sorry," Daniel began, his voice shaking. My son didn't understand what he was doing. Didn't understand. A harsh voice interrupted. A reptilian alien with scales that gleamed like metal rose from its seat. Ambassador Krenva of the Quilarian delegation pointed an accusing claw at the humans. "This is clearly a deliberate insult. The humans mock our sacred customs." Other voices joined in agreement. A being made of swirling gas in a containment suit spoke in bursts of static. "They brought their offspring to contaminate our most holy document. This proves they are not ready for council membership," another delegate added. "Too barbaric. Too primitive." Kevin started crying from all the noise and anger. Lisa held him close, trying to comfort him while her own heart raced with fear. She had never seen such universal fury from the normally peaceful council members. Zixter reached the podium and examined the damaged treaty with shaking appendages. A large corner of the top sheet was missing, and smaller bites marked two other sheets. "Centuries of tradition," the ambassador said, his voice filled with anguish. "Destroyed by this act of vandalism." "It wasn't vandalism," Daniel protested. "Kevin is 3 years old. He doesn't understand what the treaty represents. He thought it was food." "Food?" Veltara's crystalline form shifted to an even deeper shade of red. "Your species considers our sacred materials to be sustenance. This makes the offense even worse." A floating jellyfish-like creature pulsed with angry bioluminescence. "On my world, such an act would mean immediate war." "War?" Lisa's voice cracked over a child's innocent mistake. "Innocent?" Krenva hissed. "Bringing spawn to a sacred ceremony, allowing it to touch the treaty sheets, permitting it to consume our most precious document. These are not the actions of an innocent species." More delegates began calling for punishment. Some demanded humanity's immediate expulsion from the council. Others suggested economic sanctions against Earth. A few of the more aggressive species openly discussed military responses. Daniel felt the weight of his failure crushing down on him. He had been given the honor of representing humanity, and within minutes he had destroyed everything his species had worked for, all because he couldn't control his own child. "Please," he said, raising his voice above the din, "let me take full responsibility. Punish me. Remove me from my position. But don't blame all of humanity for my failure as a parent." Zixter turned to face Daniel, the ambassador's black eyes reflecting no mercy. "The council will decide appropriate punishment. But first, we must address the immediate crisis. The treaty has been violated, according to our laws. This means the peace agreement is void." Heavy silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. Without the treaty, the delicate alliances between species could unravel. Old conflicts might reignite. The stability of the entire galaxy was at risk. Lisa noticed something while the adults argued. Kevin had stopped crying and was eating another piece of the treaty sheet he still held in his hand. More disturbing was what she observed about the material itself. It was melting slightly in Kevin's warm grip, leaving streaks on his fingers that looked exactly like chocolate. She looked more closely at the sheets on the podium. The brown color, the slight sheen, the way it broke when Kevin bit it. Her scientific training kicked in despite her panic. "Wait," she said. But her voice was too quiet in the chaos. Krenva was speaking again. "I formally move that we expel humanity from the Council and declare Earth a prohibited zone. No species shall have contact with them for at least 1 century. "Seconded," called out another delegate. "Wait." Lisa shouted louder this time. "I need to ask something important." The chamber quieted slightly. Zixter's antennae twitched with irritation. "What could you possibly say that would matter now, human Lisa?" Lisa's mind raced. She needed to be careful with her words. Ambassador Zixter, you said the treaty sheets are made from processed seeds of the cavern plant, correct? Yes, the ambassador replied stiffly. The seeds are sacred to my people. We grind them, mix them with natural fats and sugars, then press them into sheets. The process takes months and is our highest honor. What kind of fats and sugars? Lisa pressed Zixter's confusion was evident. Why does this matter? Please, just answer. What exactly goes into making these sheets? The ambassador gestured to an aide, who quickly pulled up the chemical composition on a holographic display. Lisa studied the data, her eyes growing wider with each line she read. The percentages were nearly identical. Cocoa mass, cocoa butter, sugar, trace minerals. The aliens had essentially created chocolate through their sacred process. A laugh bubbled up from Lisa's throat before she could stop it. It was inappropriate given the circumstances. Completely wrong for the moment, but she couldn't help it. You laughing? Veltara's crystalline body pulsed with renewed anger. You mock us further? No, Lisa said, trying to control herself. I'm not mocking you. It's just, do you know what these sheets are made of? Of course we do, Zixter replied indignantly. They are made from the sacred cavern seeds on Earth. We call this chocolate. Lisa explained. It's one of the most common sweet treats on our planet. Children eat it all the time. Kevin didn't damage your treaty because he's destructive or disrespectful. He ate it because he genuinely thought it was candy. Daniel looked at the data display and felt his legs go weak. She was right. The treaty was basically chocolate. Candy? Several aliens repeated in confusion. You're saying this material is common food on your world? Krenva demanded. Not just common. Lisa continued. We produce millions of tons of it every year. We give it to children as rewards. Sell it in stores, use it in desserts. It's everywhere on Earth. The chamber upped it again. But this time, the tone was different. Some aliens were offended that humans considered their sacred material to be mere snack food. Others seemed intrigued by the coincidence. A few appeared to be reconsidering their harsh judgments. This changes nothing. Krenva insisted. Ignorance is no excuse. But then something unexpected happened. A small alien from the Phyrexian delegation began making a rapid clicking sound. The translation device identified it as laughter. The council chamber buzzed with renewed energy as Zixter's words sank in. Creating new traditions was a bold move, one that hadn't been attempted in the council's 1,000-year history. What kind of new tradition do you propose, Ambassador? Asked a floating being composed of swirling gases. Zixter's antennae moved in thoughtful patterns. Killfox suggested each species contribute materials for the new treaty. I propose we take this further. After the signing ceremony, we should share pieces of the treaty together as a bonding ritual. Consume the treaty? Several aliens expressed shock. Why not? Killfox clicked happily. The humans have shown us that sharing food creates connection. If each species contributes something safe for consumption, we could literally share in each other's cultures. Commander Veltara's crystalline form glowed with warm golden light. This would require careful planning. Not all species can consume the same materials. We have the best scientists in the galaxy. Tholmer rumbled. Surely we can create something that honors each species while remaining safe for all to consume. Lisa's mind was already working on the problem. We could create layers. Each sheet could have different sections with materials from different worlds. Species could consume only the parts compatible with their biology, or we could use advanced processing to make hybrid materials. Suggested a spider-like delegate from the Arachnus Coalition. My people have technology that can break down and recombine molecular structures. Ideas flew rapidly around the chamber. What had started as a disaster was evolving into the most innovative proposal the council had seen in centuries. Daniel watched in amazement, a species that had been calling for war mere minutes ago now collaborated enthusiastically. Kevin had somehow accomplished what years of formal diplomacy had struggled to achieve. I still have concerns, Krenva said, though his tone was less hostile now. Creating an entirely new treaty tradition is unprecedented. It could be seen as weakness or as strength, Veltara countered. We claim to be a council of unity, yet our most sacred document comes entirely from one world. Is that truly unity? Zixter nodded slowly. The commander raises a valid point. Perhaps we have been so focused on maintaining tradition that we forgot why the tradition exists. And why does it exist? Killfox asked, knowing the answer but wanting others to say it, to symbolize our commitment to peace and cooperation. Thulmer answered, but symbols must evolve or they become hollow. A delegate from the Luminari, beings of pure light energy, spoke in melodic tones. Our people believe that the best traditions are living things, growing and changing with each generation. This proposal honors both the old and the new. Krenva's scales rattled softly. The Quillarian seemed to be wrestling with his own beliefs. And what of the child? Does he face no consequences for his actions? All eyes turned to Kevin, who was now sitting on the floor playing with his toy starship, completely oblivious to the fact that he had nearly caused an intergalactic incident. Zixter approached the child slowly. Kevin looked up at the towering insectoid without fear, just curiosity. Young Kevin Brooks, the ambassador said formally, do you understand what you did? Kevin thought about it seriously. I ate the chocolate? You consumed the Galactic Treaty of Unity, Zixter corrected gently. Sorry, Kevin said, because his parents had taught him to apologize when he did something wrong. Why did you eat it? The ambassador asked. It looked yummy, Kevin replied honestly. And it was yummy. Did you like the piece I gave you? Zixter's antennae quivered in what might have been amusement. I did enjoy it. Young one, you taught me something important today. I did? Kevin's eyes widened with surprise. You showed me that sometimes the simplest gesture can mean the most. Zixter explained, you offered to share something precious with me, asking nothing in return. That is the true spirit of what our council should represent. Lisa wiped tears from her eyes. The ambassador's kindness toward her son touched her deeply. Killfox hopped down from his seat and approached. Kevin, I propose we make this child an honorary member of the Galactic Council. He's 3 years old. Krenva objected, though less forcefully than before. Exactly, Killfox replied. He can be our reminder to approach all situations with innocence and openness. Besides, it would be quite the story. The youngest diplomat in galactic history. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Genuine and warm this time. Commander Veltara shifted to a bright, cheerful blue. I support this proposal. Young Kevin has demonstrated more effective diplomacy in 10 minutes than some species achieve in decades. All in favor of granting Kevin Brooks honorary council membership? Zixter called out. A chorus of agreement filled the chamber from dozens of different species. Even Krenva, after a long pause, raised his claw in approval. Then it is decided, Zixter announced. Kevin Brooks, you are now an honorary member of the Galactic Council. Your role will be to remind us all that wisdom often comes from unexpected sources. Kevin didn't fully understand what was happening, but he liked the friendly tone everyone was using now. Can I have more chocolate? He asked hopefully. The chamber erupted in genuine laughter. The tension had completely dissolved, replaced by warmth and camaraderie. First, we must create the new treaty, Zixter said, amusement clear in his voice. Then you may have as much as you wish. Young diplomat, over the next hour, the council worked together with unprecedented cooperation. Each species discussed what materials they could contribute to the new treaty. Scientists and cultural experts were contacted across the galaxy. Daniel and Lisa found themselves at the center of the planning. Their knowledge of Earth materials and human dietary needs became valuable as the Council designed a treaty that would be meaningful to all species. The Voltonian delegates suggested using their crystallized minerals as a base structure. The Harkin offered volcanic glass from their homeworld. The Phyrexians would contribute processed seaweed, and Earth would provide chocolate, the material that had started everything. We should include a clause in the treaty itself, suggested a wise-looking alien with multiple heads, a statement that this treaty was born from misunderstanding and transformed through compassion. An excellent idea. Zixter agreed. Let it be known to all future generations that our unity was strengthened, not weakened, by this incident. Krenva approached Daniel and Lisa. The Quillarians' aggressive stance had softened considerably. I owe you an apology. Humans, I was quick to judge and slow to understand. Your son has taught me humility. We understand your initial reaction. Daniel replied graciously. We were terrified ourselves. Still, I spoke of war and punishment when I should have sought understanding. Krenva admitted. This is why diversity strengthens us. Your perspective helped us all see the situation differently. Lisa smiled. And your devotion to tradition reminded us that some things are sacred and should be treated with respect. We all learned from each other. Killfox joined their conversation. This is what the Council should always be. Different voices creating harmony rather than discord. Kevin tugged on his father's sleeve. Daddy, are they still mad? Daniel picked up his son. Nobody's mad anymore. In fact, you helped everyone become friends. Good, Kevin said, resting his head on his father's shoulder. I like making friends. Veltar approached, her crystalline body radiating gentle warmth. Your child is remarkable. He looked at every species here with pure acceptance. No fear, no judgment, just curiosity and kindness. That's how we try to raise him, Lisa said. To see people as people, regardless of how different they might look. A philosophy your entire species seems to embrace. Zixter observed. You came to us with open hearts and willing minds. Today's events have shown us why humanity deserves a place on this council. The ambassador's words carried weight around them. Other delegates nodded in agreement. What could have destroyed humanity's relationship with the galaxy had instead cemented it. When do we begin creating the new treaty? Daniel asked. Immediately, Zixter replied. We have already sent word. To the homeworlds, materials will begin arriving within days. The signing ceremony will be rescheduled for 1 month from now. And this time, Killfox added with his clicking laughter, we will have plenty of chocolate available for young Kevin. The clicking laughter grew louder as the small Phyrexian delegate stood up. Killfox was barely 4 feet tall, with blue-gray skin and enormous eyes that sparkled with amusement. His laughter was infectious. Though many in the chamber stared at him in shock, Killfox, this is not a matter for humor, Zixter said sternly, but the Phyrexian couldn't stop clicking. He wiped tears from his eyes with a small appendage. Forgive me, Ambassador, but this is the funniest thing I have witnessed in my 50 years of service. Funny? Krenva's scales rattled with anger. The sacred treaty has been desecrated. Killfox walked down to the main floor, still chuckling. Desecrated? The child thought it was food because it is food. Not to us, perhaps, but to his species? This is like when my nephew ate our family's ceremonial contract because it was made of dried seaweed. We didn't declare war. We laughed and made another one. Several other delegates began murmuring among themselves. The Phyrexian's words had introduced a new perspective to the crisis. Your nephew ate a family contract. Zixter pointed out. This is the Galactic Treaty of Unity, signed by 47 species, and it will be signed by 47 species again. Killfox replied cheerfully. We can make new sheets, can we not? The signing itself was not completed. We can start over, Commander. Voltara's color shifted from angry red to uncertain orange. The tradition states that any damage to the treaty during the signing ceremony is a grave offense. Perhaps, said a melodious voice from the upper tiers. A Voltonian delegate descended, her body composed of living crystal similar to Voltara, but with softer colors. But our traditions also speak of intent. The child had no malicious intent. He saw what his species considers food and acted according to his nature. Exactly, Lisa jumped in, sensing an opening. On Earth, sharing food is one of our most sacred gestures of friendship. Kevin didn't understand the ceremony, but in his own way, he was trying to connect with something familiar. Daniel found his voice again. My son has been looking at aliens all day with wonder and joy. Not fear. He saw the treaty sheets and thought they were chocolate because that's exactly what they chemically are to human senses. He didn't mean any disrespect. A deep rumbling sound came from the Harkin delegation area. Ambassador Tholmer, a being that resembled a massive boulder with glowing veins, spoke in a voice like grinding stone. The humans raise an interesting point about intent and cultural understanding. We are supposed to be a council of unity, Killfox added. How can we punish a species for not understanding a tradition they have never encountered? Especially when the misunderstanding stems from an innocent child. Kremba wasn't ready to back down. The law is clear. Damage to the treaty means the peace is broken. Then perhaps the law needs examination, Tolmer suggested. Our laws were written before humanity joined us. We cannot expect them to know every nuance of our traditions immediately. The Voltonian delegate nodded. We must also consider that we have placed them in an impossible situation. They brought their offspring out of necessity. And we approved it. We share responsibility for what occurred. Zixther's antennae drooped slightly. The ambassador was clearly struggling between adherence to tradition and the logical arguments being presented. The treaty is still damaged. This cannot be ignored. Kevin, who had been quiet in his mother's arms, suddenly squirmed free before Lisa could grab him. He toddled over to Ambassador Zixther. The massive insectoid looked down at the tiny human child. Kevin held up a piece of the treaty sheet he still clutched in his small hand. Want some? He offered innocently. The chamber fell completely silent. Every being watched the interaction between the 3-year-old human and the stern. Council leader Zixther's compound eyes shifted through several colors. You are offering to share the treaty with me? Kevin nodded, not understanding the significance, but knowing that sharing was good. It's yummy. Lisa stepped forward carefully. Ambassador, on Earth, when a child offers to share their food with you, it's the highest compliment. It means they trust you and want you to be happy. Kevin is trying to make friends the only way he knows how. The ambassador's antennae quivered. He slowly extended one delicate appendage and accepted the small piece of chocolate treaty from Kevin's hand. The child beamed with joy at having his offering accepted. Zixther brought the piece close to his sensory organs, analyzing it carefully. Then, with extreme deliberation, he consumed it. The ambassador's entire body shuddered. This is quite pleasant, he admitted, surprise evident in his voice. Kevin clapped his hands happily. See? Good. Something shifted in the chamber's atmosphere. Several delegates who had been rigid with anger began to relax. Slightly, Daniel saw the opportunity and took it. Ambassador Zixther. We humans have a saying, breaking bread together. It means that sharing a meal creates bonds between people. My son didn't break your treaty. He tried to share it. An interesting interpretation, Tholmer rumbled. Though I suspect the child simply wanted the sweet taste. Maybe, Lisa agreed. But doesn't that make it even more innocent? He's 3 years old. He doesn't understand galactic politics or ancient traditions. He just knows that something looks and smells like food. So he ate it. And when others seemed upset, he tried to share to make them feel better. Killfox clicked with approval. The child shows more diplomatic instinct than half our trained ambassadors. Commander Veltara had been quiet, her crystalline form cycling through various colors as she processed everything. Finally, she spoke. I have been observing young Kevin throughout this ceremony. Not once did he show fear of any species present. He looked at each of us with curiosity and wonder. Even now, after we have shouted and alarmed him, he offers friendship. What is your point, Commander? Krenva asked suspiciously. My point is that this child represents what humanity brings to our council. Veltara explained, her color shifting to a calm blue. They see difference not as threat, but as opportunity for connection. Yes, they are ignorant of our ways, but they approach that ignorance with openness rather than hostility. Zixter was examining the remaining treaty sheets on the podium. The damage is extensive. 3 sheets bear marks of consumption. Then we make new ones. Killfox suggested. Better ones? Better? Zixter's antennae rose in question. The Phyrexian's eyes sparkled with an idea. The current treaty was made entirely from Ambassador Zixter's world, yes. What if we created a new treaty where each species contributes material from their homeworld? A true blending of all our cultures. Murmurs of interest rippled through the chamber. The concept was radical but appealing. My people could contribute crystallized minerals. Valtara offered. They are sacred to us and would add strength to the sheets. The Harkin could provide pressed stone dust from our founding mountain. Tholmer added, we Phyrexians use dried and pressed seaweed for our own treaties. Killfox said, we would be honored to include it. Other species began volunteering. Their own sacred materials. The energy in the room was transforming from anger to excitement. Lisa felt tears in her eyes. What had seemed like the worst disaster of their lives was becoming something beautiful. Wait, Krenva interjected. We are letting ourselves be distracted. The human child still committed an offense. Kevin had wandered back to his parents and was holding Daniel's hand. He yawned. Tired from all the excitements, Ixter looked at the small child for a long moment. Ambassador Krenva, I appreciate your dedication to our laws. However, I find myself agreeing with my fellow council members. This was not an act of malice, but one of innocent misunderstanding. So we simply ignore our traditions. Krenva challenged. No, Zixter replied firmly. We create new ones. 4 weeks had passed since the incident that nearly destroyed humanity's place in the galaxy. The Galactic Council Station bustled with activity as preparations for the new signing ceremony reached their final stages. Daniel stood in the same observation room where everything had begun. But this time, he felt calm rather than nervous. Kevin played nearby with several young aliens who had been brought to witness the historic event. The sight of children from 6 different species playing together without fear warmed his heart. Daddy, look, Kevin called out, pointing at a small Phyrexian child who was showing him how to make clicking sounds. Very good, buddy, Daniel replied, smiling at how natural the interaction seemed. Lisa entered carrying a datapad filled with final ceremony details over the past month. She had become one of the key coordinators for the new treaty project. Her scientific expertise and diplomatic skills had proven invaluable. The final materials arrived this morning, she announced. The synthesis team says the treaty sheets are ready. How do they look? Daniel asked. Lisa's eyes sparkled with excitement. They're absolutely beautiful. Each sheet is layered with materials from all 47 member species plus Earth. The colors alone are stunning. Ambassador Zixter entered the room. His antennae moving in patterns that Daniel had learned indicated happiness. Are the humans prepared for today's ceremony? We are, Ambassador, Daniel confirmed. Excellent. I wanted to personally thank you both before the official proceedings begin, Zixter said. Your family has given our council a gift beyond measure. We nearly destroyed everything. Lisa pointed out. No, the ambassador corrected gently. You revealed our weaknesses and gave us the chance to become stronger. The new treaty represents what we should have created centuries ago. True unity rather than symbolic unity. Commander Veltara joined them, her crystalline form shimmering with gold and blue hues. The delegates are assembling. We should proceed to the main chamber. The group made their way through the corridors. Unlike the first ceremony, the atmosphere was celebratory rather than formal. Delegates from various species chatted warmly with each other, many trying to communicate across language barriers with genuine interest. The council chamber had been transformed. Instead of rigid seating arrangements, species had mingled together in collaborative groups. The traditional podium remained, but surrounding it were tables displaying contributions from each homeworld. On the central podium rested the new treaty. Daniel gasped when he saw it. The sheets seemed to glow with an inner light, each one a masterpiece of combined artistry and science. Swirls of color represented different materials: the brown of earth chocolate, the crystalline blue of Veltonian minerals, the deep green of Phyrexian seaweed, the volcanic black of Harken glass. It's magnificent, Lisa whispered. Killfox bounded over to them, clicking with excitement. Wait until you taste it. The synthesis team has created something that is safe and pleasant for 90% of species present. What about the other 10%? Daniel asked. Alternative sections made specifically for their biology, the Phyrexian explained. Everyone can participate. The ceremony began with Zixter calling the council to order. But instead of formal speeches, the ambassador spoke from the heart. 4 weeks ago, we gathered to sign a treaty that represented our past, Zixter said. Today, we gather to sign a treaty that represents our future. The Galactic Treaty of Unity was damaged, not by malice, but by innocence. Young Kevin Brooks saw our sacred document and recognized something familiar. In doing so, he taught us an important lesson. The ambassador paused, looking around at the assembled delegates. We had created a symbol of unity that came entirely from one world. We spoke of cooperation while maintaining rigid separation. It took a human child to show us that true unity requires contribution from all, not just acknowledgement of one. Many delegates nodded in agreement. Therefore, this new treaty has been created with materials from every member world. Zixter continued. Each species has given something sacred, something meaningful, and after we sign, we will share in consuming small portions of this treaty together, literally taking each other's cultures into ourselves. Applause and various sounds of approval filled the chamber. We will proceed with the signing, Zixter announced, and this time, we will do so not in order of planetary designation, but in random order, because in true unity, there is no hierarchy. Names were called randomly. Delegates from various species approached the podium, each making their mark on the beautiful new treaty sheets. Some used traditional methods. Others had developed new ones for this special occasion. When Earth's name was called, Daniel and Lisa approached together. Kevin walked between them, holding each parent's hand. The small family stood before the treaty. Daniel took the specialized marking tool and signed his name carefully. Lisa did the same. Then Kevin reached up. Can I sign too? The question caused a ripple through the chamber. Technically, Kevin was an honorary member of the councils. Zixter approached with a smile in his voice. Of course you may. Young diplomat. An aide provided a special tool sized for Kevin's small hand. The 3-year-old carefully made his mark on the treaty. A wobbly letter K followed by what might have been other letters. The chamber erupted in warm applause. Many delegates found the moment deeply touching. As the last signatures were completed, servers brought out small plates. The treaty sheets were carefully cut into portions sized for each species' consumption needs. We will now share in the Treaty of Unity, Zixter announced. Let this act symbolize our commitment not just to peace, but to understanding and embracing our differences. Each delegate received a piece of the treaty. Daniel held his portion carefully, examining the layers of different materials blended together. It was about the size of a cookie, with visible streaks of various colors. On the count of 3, Veltara said, "We will all consume together." The commander counted down. As one. 47 different species plus humanity ate from the treaty they had just signed. The taste was unlike anything Daniel had experienced. Sweet and savory elements blended with textures that ranged from crispy to smooth. Each bite revealed new flavors as different layers interacted on his tongue around the chamber. Reactions varied. Some species made sounds of pleasure. Others showed satisfaction through body language. Few needed a moment to adjust to the unusual combination. Kevin munched happily on his piece. "This is even better than just chocolate," he declared. Killfox clicked in agreement. The synthesis team outdid themselves. "This is delicious." As delegates finished their portions, something remarkable happened. Conversations erupted spontaneously across species lines. Beings who had never spoken directly to each other began comparing their experiences of the taste. The Harkin volcanic glass added an interesting mineral quality, one delegate observed. "I particularly enjoyed the earth chocolate layer," another replied. The formal ceremony dissolved into a genuine celebration. Species mixed freely, sharing stories and laughter. The barriers of formality that had defined previous gatherings melted away. Daniel watched Kevin playing with a group of alien children again. The youngsters were teaching each other games from their respective worlds, communicating through gestures and laughter when translation devices couldn't keep up. "This is what it should always be," Lisa said, standing beside her husband, "because of our son eating a treaty." Daniel replied with amazement in his voice. Ixther approached them one final time. "The council has made an official decision. We are creating a new tradition that will be observed at every future signing ceremony." "What kind of tradition?" Lisa asked. "The sharing of the treaty, as we did today," the ambassador explained. "But more than that, from now on, delegates are encouraged to bring their younglings to important ceremonies. Children see the world without the prejudices adults carry. They remind us of what truly matters." "Kevin would love that," Daniel said, watching his son laugh with his new friends. "There is more," Beltar added, joining the conversation. "We are establishing the Kevin Brooks Memorial Fund." "Memorial?" Lisa's heart jumped. "He's not dead." The commander's crystalline form rippled with what might have been laughter. "Forgive my poor word choice. The Kevin Brooks Commemorative Fund would be more accurate. It will sponsor cultural exchange programs between species, focusing on youth education and interaction." "That's wonderful," Lisa said, relief and pride mixing in her voice. "Your son changed the galaxy," Killfox observed, appearing beside them, not through strength or intimidation, but through simple, honest curiosity and kindness. "That is the most human thing I have witnessed." "Is that what we're known for now?" Daniel asked. "Kindness?" "Among other things," Zixter replied. "Humans are known for your resilience, your creativity, your adaptability, but yes, also for your capacity to find connection across any divide. You see other beings not as aliens, but as potential friends." The celebration continued for hours. Stories were shared, friendships formed, and promises of future cooperation made. The new Treaty of Unity sat on its podium, a physical symbol of what the galaxy could achieve when working together. As the event wound down, Kevin fell asleep in his father's arms. The exhausted child had made more friends in one day than most diplomats made in a career. Daniel and Lisa prepared to